All right, so today I'm here with Jason, and we're talking really about longevity. So Jason has a lot of experience in bodybuilding. He's done a bodybuilding show. He's prepared for that, so he understands how to prepare the body for muscles, which is where a lot of people get involved in exercise and fitness because they see the magazine of an individual who has lean muscle and they say, I want to get this. So therefore, in order to look like Jason or to look like somebody who's lean, I need to train like a bodybuilder. So then most people end up coming to the gym, want to train like you, but then unfortunately, they can't train like you because then you pick up a lot of issues. So based upon that, can the average person do a burpee with that kind of information when you've seen that now?
Well, that's a very good place to start. And to hit the nail on the head, we really have to split it in two sections and view it from that angle. Movement and exercise. Burpee is an exercise. So for the average persons who aren't executing movements on a daily basis, should not be promoted straight to exercise.
Right. But unfortunately, we see a lot of trainers out there. I think it's a lot of the guys who don't plan. They step out, they have no plan, and they say, I need to make this person tired. Give me 10 burpees. And then the person is down on the floor struggling to complete one, and the trainer is stood there waiting for the rest to be completed.
For the rest, with the audacity or the authority that, I expect a delivery. From where must the fuel come from for the individual to deliver? But of a truth, being fair, we have to really correct a lot of misconception. It comes down to taking the time and understanding the body on a whole. I think the general tendency is for persons to just understand muscle because that's where the glamour is. So once you understand muscle in a nutshell or you have an idea thereof, nothing else interests you.
But what we've seen though, when we train muscle, when we become muscle centric, that's where a lot of pain and problems start.
Yes, sir.
People reduce the range of motion. I mean, we know professional bodybuilders. I mean, they reduce the range because they want to keep the tension on the muscle.
I noted you said because that is a cause in mind. So it's about what cause are you acting upon.
Right, exactly. So it is quite dangerous then. For someone sat at home who has been a couch potato, I know you love that word.
Very, sir. Yes, sir.
The couch potato to come in and basically start to utilize the same principles and mindset of somebody who's a bodybuilder, who is keeping tension on the muscle, who's already quite strong anyway, and utilize that approach. But that's a common approach that's happening in gyms across the world.
And I mean, well said. And we are here communicating, and with exposure, we hope to win over the ears of a lot of those with a genuine interest who are on a genuine pursuit. Because the fact of the matter is, communication is so rarely shared in this area. I was at the gym, for example, the average guy would say, I was at the gym today, this guy came in, he was doing this and that, and he was curious, but he did not express his curiosity. So no conversation took place. He just left with a visual.
Right.
So he's none the wiser as to what he did, reasons why he did it, how it was done, effectively executing. So he comes in the following morning. Guess what takes place? Just take one wild guess. He tries his hands at what he saw.
And he's not ready for it. Right. So yeah, it's not about, especially within an Instagram, Facebook age, social media, it's not good to look at people's pages and compare yourself or want to start where you see they are. So let's move on to where we're talking about joints now versus muscle. So a lot of the persons now that I'm coming across, they're muscle first before joint. And we're finding out that's where a lot of the issues start. So the reason why you shouldn't be doing burpees, this is 90% of you. Especially if you are sedentary, meaning you haven't done anything for 3 months.
No fluid flowing.
Right? No synovial fluid around the joints. No lubrication.
No circulation in effect whatsoever.
What you need to be doing is you need to be starting at the very basic, which is doing movements that have very low impact on the joint. No jumping whatsoever. No running whatsoever. Low impact exercises that strengthen and engage the tissues around the joints. Start surrounding the joints first. I remember you said the other day about an analogy we were using where you talked about a tree. Tell me more about that analogy where you spoke about the tree and you used it to compare it to joints.
Well, Mr. Edwards, funnily, I actually have two analogy for you, but I'm going to give you the one that you request first. The analogy is looking at a tree from the spectrum of the graphic of a tree. You know, the trunk, the root, henceforth coming up as it projects, it tends to shoot off branches. Now, let's say those branches aren't exactly fastened to the trunk. And should it be bearing some burden that is quite laden, what is likely to happen at the attachment point? Broken, right. Shattered, or whatsoever, right. But unable to bear or withstand.
So you're saying the points where the tree joins the trunk, that you're using that to compare to a joint?
Yes, sir. And I always say, I mean, it's one thing standing, withstanding is another thing. And I mean, half the persons are barely standing, much more to be burdened with activities that require withstanding tissues.
Right. So, I mean, the solution around all of these issues, again, is to start your training with a joint first approach. And that means external rotation, internal rotation of the ball and socket joints. The shoulder is a ball and socket joint, so is the hip. What you find is linear progressions. For example, again, bodybuilding, people, and I'm not trying to demonize bodybuilding because I bodybuild, but I utilize it at a particular point. What I'm saying though, when you train chest on Mondays and arms on Tuesdays, that is the linear approach where you are training the muscles back and forth, sagittal plane. Hear me out. What we are proposing to you is for you to train the joints as they were engineered to frontal, in a rotational
transverse,
right? Which is not back and forth. No, the joint, a ball and socket. So lateral, here we have a socket, diagonal, right? And here we have the ball. So the bone goes into the socket and it moves around and it has the capacity to do this. You're only generally just doing this. We need to be doing this. Rotational.
360.
So a lot of exercises that you find within general strength training does not rotate the joint. We're just moving linear. So we're asking you to put aside linear periodization and focus on rotational first at the joint in order to get the best out of your training and also to promote longevity. Because what the science is showing us, we need to move every day.
Amen.
So if you're hurt because you're bench pressing when you're not ready to bench press, you can't move.
You cannot.
You're gonna be demotivated to even want to do anything if you're in pain.
Yes, I mean, Jade, just to echo what you're saying, and you know, emphatically, we really are beseeching those who are in view of this to really change their approach, because it's an accident waiting to happen. There's a danger ahead of you. You know, we have been there and we're returning with a cautionate message. Take a cautionate approach. Calculate. Be as precise as you possibly can. Because in a nutshell, just to follow up with the second analogy, think of it like this. It's a race is about to be run. And the competitors, as such, would be lined off. Muscles, joints, ligaments, tendons, nerves. You know, throw them all in there, and you have on your mark, get set, and go. Who's likely to explode out of the block, Jay?
The muscle.
Personificationally speaking, the muscle is likely to break out the block and maintain the momentum, holding the lead, by which way everyone else would now be forced to keep up, which you know that's an impossible task because the tissues are totally
different.
They're not
pro sprinters. They can't keep up with Usain Bolt.
So
it's like asking primary school kids to keep up with Usain.
Thanks for playing along with the analogy. I was actually going to say paralympics. But again, private school children,
to keep up with a pro able-bodied sprinter.
Yes, sir.
We're not trying to demonize.
No, sir.
People who are paralegics.
Honestly, and keeping it serious. No, we're not. We don't want to stigmatize and we don't want to go down that route. Right. But you know, keeping a grasp on things, to be sensitive and serious about the whole thing. Persons aren't guilty. So if you're at home now and you're looking at your plan and you're about to scrap it, we just want you to know that you're not guilty. You don't have to feel that you have led yourself down the wrong path. The media, depending where you're located on the globe, Western approach, Eastern approach, because Jay, what we have under the scope here is an Eastern approach, which is not really practiced by the Western world.
I want to break down what Jason's saying here. The Eastern and Western approach to periodization. For example, the Eastern approach comes from 1,000+ years ago, where that strength training system is around clubs, kettlebells, where you're rotating the joint. So if you Google an Indian club, for example, right, you have to rotate an Indian club, which is weight that you have to move rotationally, versus Western periodization. Jason, that's enough now. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm a fanatic. I'm a fanatic.
Yeah, he is a fanatic, a bit of a weird one sometimes. Anyway, as I'm saying, Western periodization is only, right, 100 years old, if that. And it's purely muscle-based, muscle-centric, right? Give me this pump, and make me.
So what about the other competitors that's running the race? The joints, the nerve, the ligaments, the tendon.
They get left in
Who
Western
cater
periodization.
for the small guy?
Right. So, guys, you really need to make sure you're allocating a trainer or a coach who's prescribing the whole historical, ideological perspective, because you have left and right wing, just like you do in politics. It's two different sets of information. It's a spectrum. And you want to make sure you're getting both sides of the spectrum. I shed a bit more light on this. We had a client come in, and he wanted to be able to do a muscle up, a ring muscle up. So if you imagine gymnastic rings, he wants to be able to pull himself up to the rings and then go on top of it. And he wanted to be able to do that as quick as possible. I won't tell you his name, but he's a guy that we've worked with very closely. And he then got some pain. He's in his 60s, actually. So those of you who are at home are saying, oh, this information is too late for me because I'm now in my 70s. Wrong. You can start at any time. He actually turned around and said, all right, whilst you're coaching me to the muscle up, we got him to be able to do pull-ups, we got him to be able to do dips, and he was now ready to practice the transition.
Just a few things on the list.
Right. Now, when he was executing the transition, he started to get pain in his shoulder because he was now forced into internal rotation.
By
so
which,
the physio,
I'm guessing no strength was there.
No strength was at the end range of that rotation. So the physiotherapist on the floor, we called her in at the time. She came in and we looked and we're like, he's getting pain, and he was getting pain for a couple of weeks. And he was thinking about giving up the muscle up because he's like, if this is the journey where I'm going to get pain, I'm going to have to put it aside.
Why would I pursue something that's...
But we managed to reassess the program based upon the physiotherapist guideline. We realized that he lacked rotational strength internally at the shoulder. We prescribed some exercises which created more joint space first.
And promote that.
Because you want to get space in the joints first. So think about, again, space in the joint means better rotation.
Lengthen, so to speak?
Well, not necessarily lengthen the tissue first. You want to space the joints first. After there's space in the joints, then we want to strengthen the connective tissue at the end range. So we did that. His pain went away and he was able to get back into training. When he got back into training, he achieved the muscle up some 6 weeks later, and he's now able to do a muscle up at any point.
Bravo.
This is amalgamating the Eastern periodization and the Western periodization. I mean, I also want us to touch on another key point. So, I mean, I'm glad you brought up the two different perspectives.
Whilst you're doing that, if I may interject, just to be the voice of those who are in the field, a lot of information is not really put out about the succession of bodybuilding. From a professional standpoint, very few persons make it through the door. Persons who tick the right boxes, because there are requirements to be met. If you notice as such, there are certain bodybuilders who would be able to perform a split, sagittal or frontal.
More the old school bodybuilders.
Yes, sir. And you have your bridges.
Like Kai Green as well.
Thank you, sir. You have your bridges. So this shows good flexibility in the spine, good mobility. So this is the thing. What persons don't see is that after the partial reps, they find time to lengthen and strengthen the other areas which are desperately in need and crying out, who are suffering in silence for that attention. No, it's serious.
Yes, you're also referring to the joint ligaments and tendons again.
But the majority of bodybuilders who do not, they have a sad story to tell, and that story goes untold.
We're talking about pro bodybuilders. You see, this is the next thing. The media puts these guys on the magazines and tell you that they're only doing linear periodization.
Big chest, big shoulders.
But realistically, these girls and guys are actually putting in some 4 or 5 hours of training.
Oh, God.
They're training linearly. They're training rotationally. and they're using Western and Eastern. That is why they have a functional performing body.
Even throwing a little skill set in there also.
Right.
Because I understand that there are a lot of seemingly athletic persons who cannot maneuver themselves. They cannot control their structure. Now you imagine you standing on a pole or holding on a pole, and you cannot determine if you want to go left or right. You cannot communicate with your limb. Carry me to that point.
Right.
The limb is non-responsive.
No.
You cannot convey that message effectively or
Absolutely.
nothing vague.
Because all you're doing is just using bad form to throw.
Precisely.
Throw the
So
weight.
where does your reliance come from?
Absolutely. So I mean, moving on, we spoke this week about pillars. Me and you had a chat about pillars, and you were underlining the importance of the different pillars, and really realistically, you need to touch each of them every day. If you only have an hour, you can get all pillars probably 15 minutes each. That's what we try to do here at Spry. Some of the pillars I'd like to mention here. We have endurance, speed endurance, strength endurance, strength, speed, flexibility, skill, structure, cardiovascular endurance. All those are different pillars that if you're going to talk about overall health, you need to be focusing on each of them.
Ticking each box. Excuse me, the interjection, Jay, but we like to say it. We like to think of it like this: to be well-rounded.
And why you need to be well-rounded for longevity. There's studies that shown females over 65 years old who fall are on their way to their death after.
On their way to their death.
Because they didn't fall, and then they can't recover from the fall. Damaged hip leads to them becoming sedentary, bedridden, and the issues start. And death comes knocking on the door.
Just to run with that one, a fall can occur at any given time, depending on the devastating nature of it, not to go in detail. But you imagine coming back from that fall straight to an hospital bed. So the approach here that we want to take is, that we are taking, is we aim to pursue a bulletproof structural design.
Absolutely.
I'm going to allow you.
That's a keyword that we use a lot.
That is a keyword. That word resonates: safety, security. To know that you can go out on the limb with an assurity of returning. That is something that there's no comparison.
Right. So so those of you who are out there at home who are saying, I can't do that. If I do that, I mash up my knees or mash up my hip. All it takes is consistent effort, because all you use them, you will be able.
And the combustion of it all. But in short, I'd like you to expound on, I see a lot of, when I walk in the gym, I see a lot of young persons in the gym, and perhaps that's a subject to itself, appealing to more senior persons. But with the seniors that we have been retaining all these years, what I acknowledge and appreciate is that they have managed to maintain athletic day in, day out right round the year, not just summer body or coming on to carnival.
At Spry Training, a lot of our client base is over 40, and a lot of them run also into 60 plus, right? And we've been tasked to be able to prescribe the right sequence of movements and exercises in order.
So is it that you turn the clock back? How do these individuals manage to sustain their youth? I mean, come on, man. That's a gift of nature, a work of art.
It is. It's called reverse aging.
Yes, sir. Juvenating.
There's two ages that we have. We have our biological age, which is how our cells age, right? And we have our chronological age, which is the age that you are on paper. That's your birth age that you were born.
Existence.
You can reverse your biological age, right?
Yes, sir.
By your lifestyle.
Yes,
so
sir.
how you feed the cells, how you move. This movement is information.
Medicine.
And it's medicine. Right?
Motion is lotion.
And so is nutrition.
And
right?
nutrition.
And so is sleep. These three things actually are what creates an endocrine response. Let me explain this. You have nutrition, right? Micronutrients and macronutrients. You have your sleep, and you also have movement and exercise. Those three things secrete hormones individually and come together to either balance.
Just run by that for me briefly again, for those who might not have caught that.
You have three different areas that you need to pay attention to. I will actually go into four. There's one that I missed. You have your sleep. If you don't sleep, your hormones will be off, and you'll have all other issues. Exercise and movement is important every day. I'm talking just walking, right? I always refer to the royal family and their status now. They're all lean and trim for a reason. We're talking also about nutrition. We're looking at micronutrients and macronutrients. So not just protein, carbs, and fats, but minerals also and your minerals and
magnesium, potassium, calcium, the whole
I mean, that's a whole different podcast to go into the different ones.
Yes, Jay. And you know, would it be fair to say that any man can stand, but very few men are able to withstand? So by virtue of meeting the requirements brings about a withstanding ability to bounce back from all these life attacks, because life does throw attacks at you, and being able to
absolutely
in the flesh, he said, because you know
we're a whole different topic here, but essentially life everybody sees life differently, and SPRYCAST is all about lifestyle. We break down lifestyle in 4 areas. We look at physical wealth, we look at financial wealth, social wealth, and your time wealth. What do you do with your time? You don't want to be cash rich and time poor, right? Poor. That doesn't make any sense.
Does not.
Right?
Doesn't add up.
It comes back to the point that I want to wrap this one on in this area is that struggle and discipline in all 4 areas for you to be wealthy is truly important. That is in your finances, that is in your physical and mental, that is together. That's also in your time. You need to have time and also social networks. I mean, they say that your network is who makes you who you are.
Makes you
so,
who you are.
I mean,
your network is your net worth. I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
That's a great quote. But
Yes,
the bottom line is that you need to be able to be disciplined and struggle. And a lot of people fall off because they cannot remain consistent. And sometimes the trainers are to blame as well, especially in the physical sense.
The accountability side.
The accountability, but
turning a blind eye.
But if you push someone to do stuff that they can't do,
yes,
you could mentally scar them.
Yes.
And that means that they won't be consistent.
Yes.
So it's your job and your responsibility as a coach and a trainer to make sure you progress or regress in order to keep that individual consistently getting over 2-3 years and not just carnival or birthday body or this or my wedding.
4-season body, so to speak. That's probably one that we really want to throw out there and gain some popularity to it. So
the 4-season body.
The 4-season body.
That one. That's not my one.
The 4-season body.
Right.
Yes, sir. So honestly, from the man who's sitting at home, Jay, from his standpoint, who may not understand this progress and regress that you speak of, in terms of the framework approach that's taken towards it, I can't do a burpees to say,
right?
Speaking from the small guy's perspective, so to speak,
right?
Where would I start? Because I want to eventually endeavor to doing a burpee.
So the terminology we're using, progression and regression. So to progress is to move forwards, and in particular in movement and exercise, it means to move forwards with a heavier dose.
Heavier dose.
It could be more weight. It could be greater range of motion.
Some intensity.
It could be less rest. It could be various different things. It could be more time under tension. It also now, regression is the opposite, which is to go back.
Relieving.
And when a trainer gives you one or your coach gives you one and you can't just about complete one, a regression is needed.
Needed from the very first set.
Let's not bother.
No more assessment is needed, is there?
But one of the biggest crappy things that I see that
come on, let's go.
Or let's finish the 10. Right. So I mean, one of the biggest challenges is a trainer prescribes an exercise without planning because they didn't do an assessment on you. So they give you something because they saw it and they say, yeah, you do a burpee. And the moment you go down and you can't do that burpee is the moment you should stop there and then. Don't even come back up. The trainer coach needs to find a regression. Meaning a regression means exercise version of that or totally change it that is easier for you to be able to complete it and complete it by doing the repetition that was prescribed. Not to stand over you saying, I'm going to make sure I stay here and you're going to get it done today.
Yes, yes, Jay, well said. Well said. And I can really commend what you said because, you know, I've learned looking at these things under the scope and returning back to the drawing board time after time, I haven't learned. It's really a sense of stroking your ego because I find that it's the trainer wants to say, I got the individual through.
Right.
You know, we
and
start.
that's only for your ego.
It's only
and the trainer.
it is.
That's only the trainer's ego that you're strolling.
Because
yeah, I got them to do
you
that.
know,
No.
You know, it's an in denial approach because you leave the session thinking the person could not do a burpee at the start. By the end of the session, I got them doing 10, but at what expense?
At what expense on the joints, ligaments, tendons.
Yes, sir. So you see, for me, where I really got the transparency was the transition from becoming a personal trainer to a coach. And I really speak it into being. I'm not yet a coach. And I say yet to indicate it is in due course. Because I learned to personalize. You know, I really learned to listen
you personalize to the point where you also rob the person of the session. Because this is an experience we had yesterday. A person's coming off the street with a goal, and that's what they pay for. And you see,
well said.
Jason's in a transition right now as a coach, pushing towards that, where he's going to say, but hang on, you can't do a squat, so why am I giving you a squat to do? However, in personal training, we're between a rock and a hard place at times. So this person, so as I said, clients come in, they pay and they want you to get them ready for carnival, or they want you to get them to look a certain way. However, when we do the assessment in depth and we look at the joints, we realize it doesn't have the rotation that it needs for us to load you. However, you see, the challenge that we're having here now is, what do we do? Do we then,
as a culture,
do we build out this joint range and strengthen it at the end before we start loading? For everyone, that can't happen, because we've had persons who walk out and say, I didn't come here for stretching, right? So
it can be tedious.
Yeah, because persons are reading what the media is giving them as well.
So we are battling with that.
We are battling. So, I mean, shout out to the people that actually allow us to
further their
give us a
well-being.
Year or two, and not say, listen, I need you to get
patience, tolerance
in 6 months.
No, but then again, we can
2 months.
No, honestly, we can promise you big biceps, big quads, big hamstring, but what will keep that attachment in place?
As we said, we're in a divide, and this is what we're working on right now. How do we sell and create? Well, we have created a hybrid program where you can get both. You can build muscle, burn fat, whilst also getting joint range, etc. We got to wrap up now. There's way more topics to go into on this, and we could go on all day. But I mean, essentially, we built out a new system here at Spry, which allows us to have 7 different phases. If you're away in China, in America, in Europe, wherever you are, you can sign up with us, and we'll send you a pair of rings and a pair of sliders and a set of yoga blocks, and you can start moving in the way that your body was engineered to, and escape all the risks of pain before you go into the gym.
Motion is lotion. No, seriously, Jay.
We have over 3 years of information for you that can keep you occupied at home without lifting any weights in a gym.
No.
But Jason, we must wrap up.
In closing, movement is an undietary supplement. Undietary supplementary.
Jason has a lot of fancy words. Some of them, I don't quite understand them. Probably need a thesaurus. Actually, he's so versed in his English. Sometimes I wonder if he's actually Mr. McDonald. I wonder if it's actually a real word Jason is using, or he's trying to pull the wool over my eyes. But anyway, we're going to be coming back to you. Like, share, subscribe, comment. If you got any questions that you want us to cover in the fitness, in the health space, because everybody, I'm sure, wants to be healthy. Not everybody needs to be fit, but if you want to be healthy, from blood work right through your internal, external health, shoot us a question. And always remember, we are always here to help you achieve whatever it is you're trying to achieve with your health, because your health is a part of your physical wealth.
And if you do not pay attention to your well-being, your wellness, you will be forced to pay attention to your illness. You owe it to yourself.
Absolutely. Thank you. Get spry, guys. Get spry.
Yes, sir.
Get spry. All right.